First, the basic cause of deafness is not too complicated. I mean, that can be malaria, it can be quinine, together with some other bad use of medicines, by the way. It can be meningitis, of course ear infections, complications during birth, and a small part is genetic. But most of the deafnesses here are actually preventable were it that there was good medical care. Another problem is some of the children become deaf at school because they're being hit around the head or on the ears. My name is Robin Donkershoot, and I'm the owner and manager of the Dodoma Deaf School, which I also founded in 2005. I found out that also the children, they may well be going to school, but they weren't actually learning any skills. They were just sitting there and that was it. Education to me is not a goal, it is a road towards self-reliance in the future. You can also imagine that a lot of these deaf kids at home have no TV and they're just totally closed off from the rest of the world because there's just nothing, there is no input. At home in the villages, nobody communicates with them, they don't have TV to watch. We're housing now about 142 deaf children, 48 staff members. About 120 children have to stay in boarding because the traveling is too complicated. For some children the home environment is simply not safe, especially being deaf children in Tanzania. They are easily subject to abuse. So to avoid all that, it's better, safer for the children to be in school. Very young kids, they come from home environments where they've been isolated, they've been separated. They've got no idea how to deal with other people. Now they get an opportunity outside of a structured classroom setting to sit together around the table maybe. They can do drawings, they can paint, they can make things. And of course they, I think it's on a Friday, maybe not a day, I'm not quite sure, do the dancing with music. Basically free expression. It teaches the children to be together. The world is not their enemy. The place we have, it is safe. There's a wall around the whole place, actually for two purposes. Of course for the safety of everything inside the wall of the school, but also to some degree to stop especially the younger kids to run away. Because you can imagine a child that comes from a home environment where it's been totally isolated. And suddenly it comes in this school where all these other kids want to be their friends almost, you know. It becomes very overwhelming. They're in a strange environment. The only familiar face they know, that's generally their father or mother, is not there anymore. So especially these younger kids who don't have communication either have got no idea what's going on. They feel like they're dumped in a strange place. So they try to run away. It has happened in the past and it gives us a lot of extra work. We may spend days with the police, the local hospitals, radio stations and all that, trying to describe the child and try to find out where it is. The child doesn't speak, can't identify itself, and we have just to try to find this little kid wherever it is. So a wall around the compound does help quite a bit. So the other important part with deaf people, when you talk to them, some of them can actually reasonably well do lip reading. So even if you don't have a sign language, talk to a deaf people like you normally talk. Slow, pronounce normally, don't exaggerate. The more you exaggerate, the more problems it is for somebody else. And that's the same if you start writing on paper and you write your letters extremely big or something. It makes no sense to do that. It doesn't make somebody read any better. Other people start mumbling. Other people, when they talk to deaf people, kind of start whispering. It all makes no sense because your mouth pattern starts changing because you talk differently. It makes it harder for a deaf person to understand, or to lip read rather, I should say. So don't do that. Talk normal. Of course, the best thing you can do, especially if you are more continuously working with deaf people, learn a bit of sign language. You know, even a few signs for common words are very helpful already. It's also respectful. Don't start hammering them on the head because you want their attention. You know, gently tap them on the shoulder if you need their attention. The world is a hearing place. So when you come across somebody who is not hearing, that is a different person to you. Per definition, you'll start treating that other person differently. But you try to make that person fit into your world rather than you yourself adjusting to the world of the other person. Specifically with children that's with any form of special needs or disabilities, people look at that as a result of a curse placed on the family. It could be a punishment from God or from whoever from above. It can be considered as misbehavior of the parents. People sort of stick all kind of labels on the fact that the child is deaf rather than simply a failing of their own society to provide the correct medical care. Fortunately, these days Tanzania is becoming more and more aware of that, and they're more and more talking about inclusive education. They're talking more about how to include deaf people into the mainstream society. So he claims it's external sounds, but at the decibels that come in, I doubt it.
It just seemed like he didn't push anything and then she responded.
Yeah, so she's lying. Because what he claims is not true. There's no way she can pick up with that hearing loss. Well, she's clever enough, but see, that's the problem also. She's just playing a game there. She's trying to score high points, yeah. But it makes fitting hearing aids also very difficult for us. We have an audiometry room. Actually, we're the only one in the whole of region of Dodoma. In an ideal world, we do audiometry, we know the hearing loss of the child, and then we can adjust a speech therapy program. However, to do that, you need speech therapists. They don't exist in Tanzania. Maybe I think there were 2 or 3 speech therapists in the whole country. And there are hundreds of thousands of deaf kids in this country. So it just doesn't reach the need at all. In their minds, the aim is even less the hearing test itself, as the aim for them is not to make a mistake, because in this culture, if you make a mistake, you get beaten. So it becomes a psychological problem. Don't make a mistake, otherwise you get beaten. So what is the child going to do? The child is going to respond to what the child thinks that you want to see or hear. So the child is starting to gamble, and you start pushing a response button, even if there's no sound. If we aren't there, there's no alternative. There's not another school they can go to either.